Good morning. It's early. But I get up early now. Well, I've been getting up early, but I get up early, or make sure I get up early now to feed myself with the word to start my day off. It's actually been working, guys, big time. It works. I stayed up a lot last night, tossing and turning, and I'll get to why in one moment. But first, let me start y'all off with the biblical verse that struck me this morning. And I don't know if I told you guys that what I do is I listen to a sermon first. Right now, I'm so big on Bishop Dale C. Bronner from the Word of Faith Church in Atlanta. I was turned on by a phenomenal friend of mine, and now I just listen to a sermon every day of him, sometimes two, one in the morning and one at night, but every morning, not every night, but some nights I listen to one before I go to bed as well. But what I also do is, after I'm done taking my notes, blah, 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 from his sermon, then I also, because he is still man and delivering the word based on how he sees it, and you know, I don't agree with everything, but I'm not questioning it. I just go with it. And then the next thing that I do is I then just plop open my Bible, whatever it opens to is what I read. Or sometimes if I'm feeling a certain type of way after the sermon, or if something's been on my heart that morning or that night before, I'll look up a verse that that goes with it, whether it's if I'm feeling pain, if I'm feeling stress, if I'm feeling hopeless, if I'm feeling praiseful, if I'm feeling happy. I'll look up a verse, I'll look it up, and then from there, whatever the first verse that I find out, then I'll just read until I tune out. But today, it comes from Ephesians chapter 6, verses 13 through 18. So it's a little long today because I was just going to do 13 and 14, but this whole part hit me this morning. So, and it is the New Century Version Bible that I'm reading from. That is why you need to put on God's full armor. Then on the day of evil, you will be able to stand strong. And when you have finished the whole fight, you will still be standing. So stand strong with the belt of truth tied around your waist and the protection of right living on your chest. On your feet, wear the good news of peace to help you stand strong, and also use the shield of faith with which you can stop all the burning arrows of the evil one. Accept God's salvation as your helmet and take the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Pray in the Spirit at all times with all kinds of prayers, asking for everything you need. To do this, you must always be ready and never give up, and always pray for all God's people. To pray for all God's people is a struggle, but I'm beginning to realize that I'm getting there, little by little. But let's get back to why today I decided to do another video. So last night, I sent out, I don't do mass texts, I sent them out individually, but I sent a text out to 6 women in my life that mean a lot to me. I didn't send it to my mother, but my mother actually means the world to me. But I didn't send it to her. It was more of on a different level of my mother is expected to love me and be there for me. These well, I sent out a text One particular one of my friends, she sent something back that made me stay up all night. And I was wondering, why, dang God, I don't be sending out text messages before I go to bed. Why did I do this last night and then you keep me up all night, tossing and turning? So my friend responded, oh, my dear, I have felt this exact same way toward and about you since I met you back at Bates Junior High. I have remained so grateful and happy that Montel Williams saw the same things in you that I see. You are something special, and I'm proud that you may be scratching just the surface these days. Laugh out loud. All right. Then I started thinking, Mountain, get out of my way. That was Montel Williams' slogan when he came to Annapolis Senior High, when I had 2 kids in the 10th grade, was still getting A's, still getting straight A's with 2 kids in the 10th grade. And that got me recognition because it stated that I was moving mountains, because I had obstacles. I had mountains there, and I was still doing what I was supposed to do. I had 4 scholarships coming at me after that, and I was only in the 10th grade. Things to push me to keep going. Montel Williams, before his talk show, when he was going around speaking after he came out of the Navy, Mountain, get out of my way, with Pepsi backing him. The reason why I still to this day prefer Pepsi over Coke, I think it has to do with Pepsi supporting Mountain. Get out of my way. Then I thought back to how I let the mountain get in my way. And then I said, everything played out. You know, all night I'm like, I didn't do the educational thing as I thought I would do, as my teachers thought I would do, my peers, my mom, even what I expected of myself. But it's not here nor there, because I'm here now. Who knows? You know? Can't turn back the hand of time. Then the other part was, then this morning, the first sermon of Dr. Bronner's that popped up on my feed, and that's what I go by unless I've already watched it, was surviving when your heart is overwhelmed. And let me just tell y'all, this went right back to everything I started questioning last night about me letting those mountains get in my way. I know I've talked about my oldest daughter a lot, and even in my book coming up, it's a lot of my faults fall in when it comes to my oldest daughter. But last night, when I was thinking, I was like, I did care for my daughter more than I thought. I did. I still made decisions for her safety, even though I was afraid I couldn't protect her. That same day that Montel Williams came to my high school, and I got that recognition by him in that crowded cafeteria gym. It was the gym. In that crowded gym, Not even knowing that I was going to be one of the people that he was there for, to give that honor. When I went home that day, I went to pick up, didn't go home, I went to pick up my daughter from my aunt's house that used to babysit her. Her and my oldest son, there was 2 at the time. And my daughter had the same pamper on. I knew it was the same pamper because I counted the pampers. It wasn't just a soggy pamper because she just hadn't been changed in a little bit. It was the whole time I was in school. I felt defeated. Can't keep doing this. And then at the time of that, I also worked at McDonald's because I had to assist my mom in taking care of the kids. You know, we weren't on welfare or anything. So I had to help my mom to take care of my responsibilities. She wanted me to stay in school, but I had to take care of my kids too without the welfare system. I made a choice shortly after that I'm not going to be able to do this because it wasn't the first time. But this time it was just bad. And this time, when I looked at my daughter, she had a rash. I made a decision. That was one mountain that I didn't have the resources to overcome, that I knew of. Probably did, but my pride, and me and my mother's pride actually, was a little bit too high to be accepting government handouts. But getting back to this sermon this morning touched on some stuff, and I was in survival mode, and I learned that when you're in survival mode, you can't help anyone. I was still battling things that nobody knew about, even with the presence of knowing that the house that my kids were being watched in, people were in and out. So that was in my mind too, but I couldn't really say too much without revealing what was going on. But at the same time, I had to protect my children, not just my daughter, my son. I don't know, I didn't hear about guys and boys getting, done until later in my life, with people I spoke with, guys I spoke with, that came out and told me about what was done to them. But at the same time, I had to protect my kids. So I couldn't go on in my life, my kids. And with the mountain getting out of my way, it was like, in this sermon this morning, he had a couple Bible verses, well, a couple scriptures, he always does, but he had a few of them this morning out of the book of Psalms, and one of them was Psalms 46, 1-3. God is our protection and our strength. He always helps in times of trouble. So we will not be afraid, even if the earth shakes or the mountains fall into the sea, even if the oceans roar and foam or the mountains shake at the raging sea. And it was like, the mountains, they did all that. And I tried to duck them. I didn't climb them. And at the same time, when I was doing that, I was hurting, and I was transferring my hurt through relationships that I had and through myself, like it's going through me, but I was surviving. I was doing whatever I had to do to protect my children, and I begged and I borrowed. I worked mediocre jobs. Then I look back at my grandmother. Well, my grandmother started being able to be financially and comfortable to come and just stay at my house when I got my own place later. She came and she stayed at my house. It's like God knew what I was gonna need and used my grandmother, one of the people that I blamed. But it was a different stage. They were older now. I wasn't in school anymore. I tried to go back when I was 19. I went back to finish high school, and my ego was uncomfortable being there with people 4 years younger than me in the same classes at high school level with them, which was bull. I should have just done it, but it obviously wasn't in my plan. And it's funny that first, when I wasn't feeling wasn't allowing myself to feel the pain, when I was just painting people or moving on like nothing, but it was all in me, I couldn't heal. Even up till months ago, last month, early December, kept saying, I'm healed, I'm good. No, I wasn't. You cannot heal what you can't feel. And over this last 4 or 5 months, I felt a lot. I learned from this sermon, he said, sometimes you have to deconstruct to reconstruct. That you have to fight with everything you have, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I was missing that last component. If I would have even got the message at the time, if I would have heard the message that Montel Williams was telling me in the beginning, mountain, get out of my way from a spiritual essence instead of a survival mechanism. How I seen it at first was like, yeah, you just gotta go out there, you gotta fight. Like, you gotta do what you gotta do, you. Like me, by myself, not with the Lord. I was missing that. The enemy was myself. The enemy of me for most of my life has been right in me. But now that I know that let go don't mean in the sense like I see when people say, let it go, let go, let go, let God. Like, how do you let something go? And let God, blah, blah, blah. Letting go and letting God don't mean that if you have an agenda to push, that you don't push it. It's just you don't let it dwell in you. Excuse me. Because some things you just can't change. Can't change people. So with that type of stuff, you can't let it dwell on you, let it take your peace from you. Cost you too much. All this was in the sermon this morning. And I'm like, dang. And guess what? If I would have heard this sermon earlier, I wouldn't have heard this. I wouldn't have heard the message. Same way I didn't hear Montel when he was there. And everything was being set up for me. But at the same time, I'm glad that I put my children first, because they needed me, because it wasn't their fault that I went out there and did what I did and got pregnant and had them. I couldn't just throw them to the wolves. Wolves, you know, my accent, my speech. But it's like, it's one thing my third child tells me, my second son, he says crazy stuff sometimes. We'll be sitting around and we'll be talking or anything, and out of the blue, this happens at least once a year. This guy does this. Mom, I don't know why you just didn't give us 3 to grandma and finished school and went to college. Grandma could have took care of us, and while you know, became a doctor. Mom, you too smart. Like, no, son, wasn't my mother's responsibility. My mother had her one. She had one. She had her chance to do it. Y'all was my kids. And in one way, yeah, it would have been maybe beneficial for me to go on the education and be able to take care of y'all financially better. But on the other end, what about the mentally, the mother-child relationship that we all formed, and even through the struggle? All of them. I wouldn't change that for nothing. I'm glad that my mother never just said, hey, leave your kids and let me take care of them. I knew that she would if that would have came down to it. She never said it. I'm glad she never said it. I'm glad that I never thought about it. There's things that I would have changed in my upbringing of my children, but never would I have changed the fact to raise them myself. All 6 of them. With this thing, I know I rambled. I don't even know what I really said or how much I've said, or did I get my whole point across. But my point is, no matter what recognition you get from who, how, a celebrity, a friend, a family member, sometimes it doesn't resonate with you because at that time, it wasn't the time. But when it's time to resonate, the Lord will make it resonate with you. And my friend last night, that message resonated with me big time. It made me think. It made me reflect. It made me get a better understanding of my choices again and why I made them. And to know that 30 years later, actually 33 years later, 33, 34, because this is about 30, I think this was in 89 or late 89 or early 1990 that he came to the school. But whichever way, it's been a long time. And to know that you still think of me as Montel Williams thought of me back then means so much. Thank you. And again, God is good, people. Never stop pushing, never give up. One last thing in here is knew I wrote it because it made so much sense. I'm angry that I did not write that down, and why didn't I write that down? Anyway, I'm gonna stay disciplined, and I'm gonna work on my consistency because that's something I haven't been. And I want everybody to know, as I've been reminded, that when that curtain seems like it's shutting, don't forget. It might be the end of that, but it's just a different scenery coming up. God bless everybody.